Why your brain is hiding reality from you. Look around you, the room you're sitting in, the screen you're watching, your own hands. You feel absolutely certain you're seeing reality exactly as it is. You're not. Not even close. This isn't philosophy. It isn't a thought experiment. And it isn't one of those internet videos that claims everything is an illusion. This is neuroscience. Over the last century, researchers have discovered something deeply unsettling. Your brain is constantly deleting pieces of reality. It edits what you see. It edits what you remember. It edits why you make decisions. It even edits the feeling that your own body belongs to you. And the strangest part, you never notice the edits, because the editor is also the only witness. Tonight, I'm going to show you 5 real discoveries that completely changed how scientists think about consciousness. By the end of this video, you won't just question your memory. You'll question whether the person listening to these words is actually the one making your decisions. Let's begin with something impossible. Right now, you're blind. Not permanently. Not for minutes, but for thousands of tiny moments every single day. And your brain has spent your entire life making sure you never discover it. Try something. If you're holding your phone, keep looking at it. Now quickly move your eyes to something else in the room. A lamp, a window, the ceiling, then back again. Did you notice your vision moving? Of course not. You have never seen your own eyes move. Not once. Yet everyone else can. Record yourself doing the exact same thing. Your eyes jump instantly from one point to another. The movement is obvious, so why can't you see it? Because during every rapid eye movement, called a saccade, your brain temporarily shuts down your visual awareness. Think about that. Your eyes are moving several times every second. During each jump, light is still entering your eyes. Your retinas are still working, but your brain refuses to show you the image. Why? Because it would look terrible. Imagine filming while violently shaking a camera. Everything would blur. Instead of letting you experience that blur, your brain simply deletes it. Scientists call this saccadic masking. It literally removes moments of vision from your conscious experience. Then it stitches the images before and after together so perfectly that you believe you experienced one continuous reality. You didn't. You experienced an edited movie. Across an average day, these tiny blackouts add up to roughly 1 or even 2 hours. 2 hours. Every single day. For your entire life. Your brain has been quietly cutting pieces out of reality. And you've never caught it once. But maybe that's just vision. Maybe the rest of reality is still accurate. Right? Not exactly. Because once scientists realized how much the brain edits perception, they started asking a dangerous question. What else is it hiding? In 2005, psychologist Daniel Simons designed one of the simplest experiments in cognitive science. It became famous for a reason. An actor stopped random pedestrians on a university campus. "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to the library?" Halfway through the conversation, 2 workers carrying a large wooden door walked directly between them. For only a second, the pedestrian couldn't see the actor. Hidden behind the moving door, the original actor stepped away. Another person took their place. Different face, different height, different clothes, even a different voice. The workers kept walking. The conversation continued. Nearly half the people never noticed. Think about what that means. You aren't watching the world like a security camera. You're not recording every detail. Your brain builds a rough model, a shortcut. It assumes most things stay the same unless something important demands attention. This saves enormous amounts of energy, but it also means reality is far less detailed than it feels. Your confidence comes from the story your brain tells you, not from the amount of information it actually processed. This phenomenon has a name: change blindness. And once you know it exists, it becomes impossible to ignore. How many conversations have you remembered incorrectly? How many details did your brain quietly replace because they seemed close enough? How many moments never really happened the way you think they did? The answer is uncomfortable. Nobody knows, because you can only notice the changes your brain allows you to notice. But deleting information is almost harmless compared to what comes next, because sometimes, the brain doesn't just hide reality, it invents one. Imagine walking into a hospital. A doctor smiles. "Can you see me?" "Of course. How many fingers am I holding up?" 3. The doctor is holding up one. He walks across the room. The patient follows him with their eyes. The doctor places a chair directly in front of them. The patient immediately walks straight into it, then says, "I wasn't paying attention." This sounds impossible, but doctors have documented it for more than a century. It's called Anton-Babinski Syndrome, usually caused by severe damage to the visual cortex. The eyes still work, light still reaches the retina, signals still travel toward the brain, but the part responsible for turning those signals into sight has been destroyed. The patient is completely blind, objectively, medically, provably, yet they insist they can see perfectly, not because they are lying, not because they are embarrassed, because they genuinely believe it. When reality disappears, their brain fills the gap, instantly, automatically, confidently. confidently. Ask them what color the walls are. They'll answer. Ask who just entered the room. They'll answer. Every answer sounds perfectly sincere. Every answer is fabricated. Neuroscientists call this confabulation. It's one of the strangest abilities the human brain possesses. When information is missing, it prefers inventing reality over admitting ignorance. Think about that. Somewhere inside your brain is a system that would rather create an entirely fictional world than allow you to experience uncertainty. That realization changes a much bigger question. If the brain can invent an entire visual world without realizing it, what else might it be inventing right now? The answer became even stranger during one of the most famous experiments in neuroscience, because scientists accidentally discovered that the storyteller inside your head never actually cared about telling the truth. It only cared about making the story make sense, because the human brain isn't one single decision maker. It's a collection of specialized systems, all working at the same time. Most of them never speak. Only one of them tells the story. In the 1960s, surgeons faced a desperate problem. Some patients suffered from epilepsy so severe that violent seizures spread uncontrollably between the two hemispheres of the brain. There was only one solution: cut the connection. The structure they severed is called the corpus callosum, a dense bridge containing hundreds of millions of nerve fibers linking the left and right hemispheres. To everyone's surprise, the patients survived. They could walk, talk, remember, laugh. At first glance, they appeared perfectly normal. Then neuroscientist Michael Gazzaniga started asking unusual questions. Because each eye sends information to both hemispheres in a very specific way, researchers discovered they could secretly show information to only one side of the brain. In one famous experiment, the word walk was flashed only to the patient's right hemisphere. The patient immediately stood up and started walking toward the door. Gazzaniga asked a simple question: why are you getting up? Here's the problem. The left hemisphere, the one responsible for speech, had never seen the command. It literally didn't know why the body had started moving. So what did it say? I think I'll go get a Coke. There was no Coke. There was no thirst. There was no plan. The explanation was completely fabricated, and yet the patient believed it completely. That discovery became one of the most important findings in modern neuroscience. Gazzaniga called this mechanism the interpreter, a system whose job isn't to tell you the truth. Its job is something much simpler: make everything feel like it makes sense. Every decision, every action, every emotion. If the real reason is unavailable, the interpreter quietly writes another one. Think about your own life. Have you ever bought something and later explained it as a smart investment? Have you ever disliked someone instantly, then spent hours inventing logical reasons afterward? Have you ever made a decision first and justified it later? Your brain probably did, because evidence increasingly suggests that many decisions begin outside conscious awareness long before you experience the feeling of choosing. Your conscious mind isn't always the CEO. Sometimes, it's the company's public relations department, always ready with a convincing explanation, whether it's true or not. Now I want you to do something. Look at your right hand, or your left, whichever is closer. It feels unquestionably yours, not just because you can see it, because you know it's part of you. That certainty feels impossible to shake. Researchers proved otherwise. In 1998, psychologists performed an experiment that takes less than 10 minutes. A participant sat at a table. Their real hand was hidden behind a screen. A realistic rubber hand was placed where they could see it. Then something incredibly simple happened. Using two identical paintbrushes, researchers stroked the hidden real hand and the fake hand at exactly the same time. Same movement, same rhythm, same location. Nothing dramatic, just synchronized touch. After a minute, something extraordinary happened. The participant stopped feeling as though the rubber hand was fake. Their brain quietly adopted it. It became part of their body. Then the researchers raised a hammer and slammed it onto the rubber hand. People gasped. Their heart rate jumped. Some even screamed. Not because they thought the rubber hand was valuable, because, for a brief moment, their brain believed it was them. Your sense of self isn't fixed. It isn't hardwired. It's constantly being updated. The border between me and not me isn't discovered. It's constructed. And if that boundary can change in minutes, how much of your identity is more flexible than you ever imagined? But everything we've discussed so far still assumes one thing: that you're experiencing reality. As it happens, you're not. Imagine lightning strikes outside your window. You think you witnessed that moment instantly. You didn't. Your brain had to collect light from your eyes, convert it into electrical signals, send those signals through multiple layers of processing, compare them with memory, recognize the object, interpret what happened. Only then, Does consciousness receive the finished product? Their present moment is already old by the time you experience it. Scientists have known this for decades. One of the strangest demonstrations comes from something called the color phi phenomenon. Researchers flash a red dot. A fraction of a second later, they flash a green dot nearby. Objectively, two separate flashes occurred. But that's not what people experience. Instead, they see a single dot moving across space, changing from red to green halfway through its journey. Think about what that means. Your brain couldn't have known the second dot would be green until it actually appeared. Yet somehow, it inserts that future information into what feels like your present experience. Reality isn't streamed live. It's buffered, edited, then released. Like watching a sporting event with a slight broadcast delay. You're always living a tiny fraction of a second behind reality. You simply never notice the delay. Benjamin Libert's famous experiments pushed this idea even further. His team measured electrical activity in the brain before volunteers made simple decisions. Again and again, the brain showed clear signs of preparing the action. Hundreds of milliseconds before people became consciously aware of deciding. Your brain starts moving first. Your awareness catches up afterward. Whether that completely disproves free will remains controversial. Scientists still debate it, but one conclusion is difficult to escape. Consciousness appears much later in the decision-making process than intuition suggests. Now step back. Look at everything you've just learned. Your vision contains hours of invisible gaps every single day, and your brain quietly edits them away before you ever notice. When an entire sense disappears completely, your brain doesn't report the failure. It invents a replacement instead, and believes its own invention completely. The voice narrating your life, the one explaining every choice you make, doesn't always know the real reason. It just refuses to say, "I don't know." The feeling that your body belongs to you, something you've never doubted for a single second, can be quietly rewritten in under 10 minutes. With nothing more than a paintbrush and a piece of rubber. And the now you're experiencing while listening to this exact sentence isn't actually now. It's a reconstruction, assembled milliseconds after the fact, and relabeled live before it ever reaches you. 5 discoveries. 1 pattern. Your brain was never built to show you the truth. It was built to keep you alive long enough to survive and reproduce. And those two goals, survival and truth, are not the same thing. They were never the same thing. A brain that shows you everything, in perfect, unfiltered detail, is a brain that hesitates, that freezes, that gets caught by the thing hiding in the grass while it's still processing the 17th shade of green. A brain that deletes, edits, invents, and guesses, fast, confident, and occasionally wrong, is a brain that survives. Evolution didn't select for accuracy. It selected for speed. It selected for confidence. It selected a good enough story, delivered instantly, over a perfect truth delivered too late to matter. And that is the exact brain you have been living inside since the day you were born. So here's what I want you to actually do. Not just think about, do. Right now, before you scroll away, think of one memory you would bet everything on. A moment you are 100% certain happened exactly the way you remember it. Got one? Now ask yourself the real question this entire video was built around. How would you actually prove it? What test could you run? What evidence could you check? That isn't just more memory. For most memories, there isn't one. Type that memory in the comments below. Just one sentence, the one you are the most sure of, out of your entire life. Then scroll through what other people write. You'll notice something strange happening in that comment section. People defending memories that nobody even challenged. Getting specific, getting detailed, getting defensive over something no one questioned. That's not an accident. That's the exact mechanism you just spent the last 15 minutes learning about, happening live, in real time, in the comments of this exact video. If this changed even slightly how you think about your own mind, subscribe, because this was only the beginning. Next time, we go further, into the cases where this editing system doesn't just bend reality, it breaks completely. Where people experience a now that never existed. Where people remember entire lives they never lived. Where people see, with total conviction, things that were never there at all. It's stranger than everything you just heard, and it's coming soon. Until then, do one thing for me. Question what feels obvious, because the things you are most certain about are usually the things your brain worked hardest to convince you of. And now, for the first time, you know why.